Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 26.3 Beta 3. This is available to developers, and iOS 26.3 Public Beta 3 should be available either by the time you're watching this video or sometime soon. Now this came in at 1.04 gigabytes on my iPhone 17 Pro Max, but was about 10 gigabytes on the iPad. Along with this, Apple also released iPadOS 26.3 Beta 3, macOS 26.3 Beta 3, tvOS and HomePodOS 26.3 Beta 3, along with visionOS and watchOS 26.3 Beta 3 as well. However, earlier on today, Apple also released a public version of iOS 26.2.1 to the public, with updates going all the way back to iOS 12. So lots of updates today, and this is very unusual for Apple. Now let's take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then General, then About. As you can see, the build number is 23D5114D. Typically with Beta 3, at least year over year, this would be an A build, and then we would get the RC next. We could get a Beta 4 and then an RC. We'll talk more about that in a little bit though. We do have a new modem update going from Beta 2 to Beta 3. On this particular device, we go from version 1.40.02 to 1.40.03, but we're seeing updates to the modem on other devices as well, so we'll have to see how that improves the modem or the overall connectivity, if it does at all. As far as new features and changes, well, going from Beta 2 to Beta 3, there's not really anything physical that you can see. There's a couple things worth mentioning in the code though, but basically notification forwarding is still gone like it was on Beta 2. So if we go down to notifications, there was a notification forwarding option that's been removed, and we still have the transfer to Android feature. So this is something that we expect to be released to the public with this update, where it says transfer to Android, and that's still here. So that small update is here, along with a new change within your settings under privacy and security. If we go down to privacy and security, go to location services, then scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that we have a new option for weather wallpaper. So if you're using the weather wallpaper, you'll now have the option to use it with your current location or never, or just use it anytime you share it. So that's something that's been updated. In addition to that, if we go into our wallpaper, you'll see that they've separated weather and astronomy into their own categories, so that's something that's been updated with iOS 26.3. The only other thing is within the code, we're still not seeing anything about RCS encryption, although it is expected with iOS 26.3 based on previous code, but within messages, there's just nothing there about RCS encryption just yet. They could just turn it on in the background, but they haven't mentioned anything specifically. Also, another update mentioned on Reddit as well as Discord with iOS updates. Supposedly Peru with Entel gets carrier satellite support, and there's updates for cross-platform eSIM transfer. So that's something we saw in settings earlier, but apparently this is available in Japan, so it should work across many carriers once it's released to the public. Also available in iOS 26.3 Beta 3 is a new feature found by Aaron P613 on X. It limits the precision of your location data that is available to mobile networks. However, it says this does not impact location sharing during an emergency. It does require a supported carrier update, so probably once it releases, and requires a C1 modem, so the iPhone Air 16e or iPad Pro M5. So this could be a feature some people want just to keep things a little bit more private. Now, another thing released today are new AirTags. AirTags second generation, so maybe Beta 3 has support for that. We don't know 100%, but they did release that for iOS 26.2.1. So the next generation of AirTags gets a longer Bluetooth range and a louder speaker, and hopefully better battery life and maybe even a few other things they haven't mentioned. That's available to order today, along with a new black Unity band. So again, Apple introduced this. However, they did not introduce new wallpapers, whether that's in iOS 26.2.1 or iOS 26.3 betas. So maybe they're skipping that this year. So far, we haven't seen anything, but the watch band is now available to order. And of course, you can use the previous watch faces and wallpapers as well. So that's available this week, but you can order it now. As far as anything else, well, earlier last week, Apple actually introduced Creator Studio. This is something that's coming out on Wednesday this week with all new icons for the apps, some additional AI integration, as well as some changes that should make them even better across Mac, as well as some new apps on iPad with Pixelmator Pro. So this is coming out in just a couple days, and again, we could have some additional support in the beta for that. Now, as far as anything else, I did want to test to see if we can still AirDrop to a Pixel. So we won't do this in every update, but just through these betas to see if it's changed. We'll go ahead and AirDrop, and we'll go into Quick Share in our settings here. and give it a second so that it's available to receive. And now it shows up. So it shows up as other devices. It's waiting. We can accept it and then transfer it over. So it looks like it works still without any issue. So that's great news. Hopefully that'll be a standard across all devices very soon. One other thing I wanted to mention is that along with iOS 26.2.1, Apple also introduced iOS 18.7.4. However, if you're on a newer device, such as the 16 Pro Max, we go to Software Update, the only thing available is iOS 26.2. Unfortunately, Apple is not allowing any files to upgrade this. It's only available for iPhone XR, XS, and XS Max. So you'll see it's still checking. Let's try again. And there we go. We have 26.2.1. There's no option for iOS 18. I wish Apple would allow it, but at this point, it looks like it's all done as far as newer devices go. When it comes to bugs and bug fixes, well, I haven't seen a whole lot mentioned so far. Some people say bugs still remain. The camera is working fine. We're not getting over blue tint issues with the white balance, as well as the flash is no longer freezing. And as far as CarPlay goes, we'll have to test that over the next few days and talk about it in the weekend follow-up video. With the betas, it's actually been pretty good, but it hasn't been fixed for everyone. So let me know if it's fixed the issue with Mercedes-Benz with pixelation or any other disconnect issues you are having. Also, one other thing I've heard is that the keyboard bug is not fixed. That's typically slow typing, so this is iOS 26.3 Beta 3, and it seems to be okay, at least on newer devices, but sometimes it's slow, sometimes it misinterprets what you're typing. Even if you press maybe the number 7, it could even press the number 6 by accident. This is just something we're seeing over and over that so far Apple hasn't acknowledged or they haven't fixed as well, so hopefully they'll do this very, very soon. As far as new releases, well, this one is a bit unexpected. Apple doesn't typically release something on the same day as a public release. That's very rare, but we could see some public releases of maybe new products tomorrow into Wednesday as we have that new Creator Studio, and maybe we'll see something we don't expect. But based off of this release, I would expect iOS 26.3 Beta 4 or RC as soon as February 2nd. That would put the public release sometime around February 9th, and maybe even later at February 16th. After that, iOS 26.4 Beta 1 is expected, with Apple introducing the new Siri 2.0 with Gemini integration, or based on the Gemini model, rather. So those things are expected in February. Right now, we don't have a public release date, but we expect it within a couple weeks at this point. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.2 Beta 3, whether that's on your iPhone 17 Pro Max, iPhone Air, or some other device, an older device, well, I'm hearing so far that it's quite smooth on older devices. However, if you want a stable version, I would probably stick with iOS 26.2.1, but if you're already on Beta 2, definitely install this update. When it comes to performance, like I mentioned, it's very smooth overall. So far, it seems pretty good right after installing it. There's a couple hiccups here and there, but generally it's very smooth, even on older devices, whether that's ProMotion here, scrolling in the app library, going back and forth, opening different applications. It looks like they're really focusing on refinement this time around instead of features, and maybe pushing that to iOS 26.4 with Siri, as well as iOS 27. When it comes to heat, well, of course, we expect it to heat up a little bit while we're testing it and installing the update, but give it a few days, it should cool down, and we'll take a closer look at that in the weekend follow-up video to see if it's a little cooler than before, even when running intensive tasks. When it comes to the battery life, if we go ahead and take a look at settings, some people are saying they're getting 10 to 12 hours of screen on time when it comes to the current beta. For example, this is on an iPhone 17 Pro Max that a viewer sent in, 5 hours and 44 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 38 minutes of screen idle time with 51% of the battery used. Pretty great battery life overall on a 17 Pro Max. If we take a look at mine, this is not my main device right now, but if we go to battery and battery health, or rather scroll down to view battery health, you'll see it's at 100% capacity with 56 cycles. The battery itself, again, today hasn't been used a lot, but 2 hours and 17 minutes of screen active time, 28 minutes of screen idle time, and it's sitting at 27% usage for today. So really pretty good considering I installed an update and it's still going, processing in the background and indexing. Now, if we take a look at iPhone storage, we'll go to General and then iPhone storage. On the left, we have Beta 2. On the right is Beta 3. If we take a look at iOS, you'll see Apple Intelligence is taking up about 3 gigabytes more or so, with iOS taking up exactly the same amount of storage from 26.3 Beta 2 to Beta 3, so 13.95 gigabytes. So no real change there at all, and system data varies depending on what you're doing. This was just below 1 gigabyte. It can go up and down, can go to 40 or 60 gigabytes depending on your overall storage. Now, I did run benchmarks on my blue iPhone 17 Pro Max 3 different times. So if you'll take a look here, this is the best score as far as multi-core. We had 3,840 for single core, 9,708 for multi-core. Pretty good overall. Again, it takes some time to index everything in the background for everything to settle down. So we'll test this in the weekend follow-up video along with battery performance and more, even on older devices as well. And so that's everything with iOS 26.3 Beta 3 so far. Of course, if I find more features, we'll talk about it in the weekend follow-up video. And if you've noticed any changes or differences, I'd love to hear from you in the comments as well. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.